All right, let's go. 125 pounds. The NCAA brackets are set. It's time to break down every single bracket. And we're going to start at 125 here. And this is a weight that had a lot to live up to from last year, and considering it was the weight of chaos. We dubbed it that in the preseason, and it lived up to that billing the entire way. Now, this year, a little less chaotic because you had Matt Ramos going wire to wire up to the conference tournament undefeated. He was a stabilizing force as the number one guy until he was knocked off by Penn State's Luke Lillidahl. I'm going to go over the different title contenders, some sleepers, my All-American and national champion picks. I'm going to look at some of my bracket. I'm not going to read every match. My gosh, that would take forever. But let's get into it. I think this weight, I have it down for 3 title contenders. Now, of course, I could expand that list and I wouldn't be wrong, right? You know, I could say there's 8 or there's 9 or there's 10, and then I bet I would get the champ. But I'm trying to really pare it down to the short list of wrestlers I really believe are going to be the national champion. It's these 3: Luke Lillidahl, Matt Ramos, or Richard Figueroa. Now, one of those things is certainly not like the other, and that's Richard Figueroa. On the one hand, he is a national champion. He won this weight a year ago. On the other hand, he was just 3rd at conferences, and he lost to a guy from North Dakota State who's sub 500. So there's a lot going on there. But at the end, leading into conferences, I actually thought Richie looked pretty good. I don't know what happened in the Doherty match, right, against NDSU. That was weird, but he wrestled back for 3rd. And just him having the pedigree that he has and really only having 1 loss on the year, you can't say this guy can't win a national title. And I think some of the matchups in front of Richard Figueroa would suggest that that's true. Matt Ramos unquestionably can win this weight, and so can Luke Lillidahl because of what we just saw him do at the Big Ten tournament. Now, I have Luke Lillidahl winning this weight. I think he beats Matt Ramos in the final. I think maybe his biggest test will come in that semifinal bout against Richard Figueroa. Now, Figueroa has his own problems in front of him to get to that semifinal match, including number 4, Vincent Robinson of NC State, who's had a great year. But I think the savviness and the elusiveness of Richard Figueroa is going to get him to that semifinal round, right? I think he has a reasonably navigable draw. Holman from Cal Poly is actually tough. Watching him at Pac-12s, he's going to be a tough out for Figueroa, but I think he's going to make it there. Now, if you're looking for Luke Lillidahl, what's his path look like? I think there's no cause for concern until that quarterfinal bout where he's going to face Caleb Smith. But at this point, he's 2-0 against Caleb Smith. Smith has not been able to get a takedown at any point in those matchups. So you feel good about Luke Lillidahl making it to the semis, and I think it's going to be either Robinson or Figueroa. I think it's Figs, and I think Luke beats him. I think if Lillidahl pressures forward, because what we've seen with Figueroa, he'll cede a lot of ground and try to catch you. I think if you do that against Luke, you're going to put your back against the wall with stall warnings. You may be forced to take some shots, which could feed into some reattack stuff. Luke just looked really sharp, and more than anything, he was just so assertive, so forward, so aggressive. He's got the right, I don't know, charisma, whatever the word is. Luke's got it right now. And now on the bottom side, Matt Ramos, he's got a pretty tough path, honestly. And it gave me some pause in even putting him through to the finals. Starting in round 2, I think Maximo Renneria, and I'm going to get into my sleepers, Maximo Renneria from Oregon State is one of them. This guy, yeah, he's certainly, if you look at his results, you'll be like, well, what are you getting at? He's beaten some good guys in the past, including Richard Figueroa. He's tough to get to, tough defensively, very tough. He's big, nice single leg, finishes out the back door. He's going to be able to get to legs. He's a darter. Kind of a classic, tough California wrestler, really. And that's who Ramos could face in the second round. That's a really tough second round match, should Renneria win in round 1. And then after that, it doesn't get a lot easier. It's probably going to be either Troy Spratley or Steve O'Poulin. I think it's Spratley. Spratley and Ramos had a 1 takedown match at CKLV in December. I still favor Ramos there. I've got him winning that match, but it's just for a second and a quarter match, those are pretty challenging for the 2 seed. And then in a semifinal, could be a combination of guys. I think there's a case for a kind of an out of nowhere guy, but Ventresca has been pretty solid this year. If you look at it, he's the 3 seed. I think he matches up well with Jet Strickenberger in that quarterfinal match. Strickenberger off the scale. Quarterfinals is an early match, 125. Strickenberger's really big for the weight. Eddie's going to be feeling better off the scale. I think that's the difference there. If Jet has a nice cut and feels good, could be differently, but my read is Ventresca gets that win in the quarter, setting up a Ventresca-Ramos semifinal. I think that's Ramos. I think that's, I'm pretty confident in Matt Ramos there. So then it sets up another Luke Lillidahl, Matt Ramos match. And what did we see in the first one? It was an early attack. And Luke Lillidahl has an uncanny ability when he gets to rear standing on guys. They'll roll under. He is so good at just kind of letting go and then follows the hips and gets the three. That's how he was able to get a takedown against Caleb Smith in the duel. He did it successfully against Matt Ramos for 7 points at Big Tens. He did it in the previous round of the Big Ten Championships as well. Luke's, if there's cause for concern from Luke Lillidahl, can a guy get on top and ride him and create problems? That hasn't been a major issue for him. Can Luke struggle to get to legs? That was an earlier issue, just that timing, right? Feels like a lot of those problems have been resolved recently. And Luke's been wrestling really well. True freshman, you can get nervous, right? It wasn't a year ago where Penn State had a true freshman, Big Ten champ, number 1 seed at 125. History is repeating itself here for Penn State because Braden Davis was in the exact same scenario a year ago. But Tyler Meisinger, and I don't give him much credit, but I'll give him credit here. He brought up, he's like the pedigree here. The pedigree of Luke Lillidahl, a age-level world champion. Just what he brings to the table is certainly different than what we had last year at 125 generally. And for that reason, Luke Lillidahl is my pick. There are some picks I'm way more confident in than others. I would say this is kind of middle of the road for me. It's not that my most confident, obviously. It's not my least confident either. I feel like Luke Lillidahl is a reasonable selection based on how guys are wrestling right now and how they looked at the conference tournament. And you could say, well, then why are you introducing Richard Figueroa if you're saying what happened at the conference tournament? There's still a caveat in my own mind, and maybe it's logically, inconsistent, but I just saw what this guy did last year at the NCAA tournament coming in as the 8th seed, right? And sometimes there's guys that are just different when it matters most, and conferences aren't the NCAA championships. And Richard Figueroa is one of those guys. Now, some other sleepers that I haven't mentioned. I already mentioned Maximo Renneria out of the 15 for Oregon State. Number 20, Brendan McCrone. Middle school McCrone, it seemed like he was figuring it out a little bit at the Big Ten Championships. This guy, he gives up the first takedown so often, he puts himself in a hole. Now, what I saw towards the end of the Big Ten Championships, he was going after, trying to get on top early. This is one of the best top wrestlers in the NCAA tournament at 125. And so McCrone, if he can get on top early, I could see him going on a run here. Where is his first round match? I have him falling in the round of 12 to Spratley. That's an interesting match, though. Spratley can have some issues from the bottom position, right? And McCrone is not a guy you want to face if you have those kind of problems. Ask Luke Lillidahl. He was able to pin him. So McCrone's a guy. I have him going through Anderson of UNI. I have him beating Flynn of Minnesota. And then on the top side, I'll find him, I promise. I have him beating Mark Anthony McGowan as the 13th seed. Right? I think he wins that first round match. I don't know how well he matches up in that second round against Vincent Robinson. That's what sort of can be a limiting factor for him as a sleeper. But that being said, he has a wild card element with you don't know how these guys are going to respond underneath. And if he gets that one opportunity on top, he can blow a match wide open no matter how much he's down by. And that makes him an interesting sleeper, as is number 23, Tanner Jordan from South Dakota State. He's someone who has reached All-American status 1 year ago. Now, his path, I don't like it that much because he has a first-round match against Steve-O Poulin, who has really dominated this series historically. So Jordan's really going to have to get hot on the backside for a while if he wants to make it back to that All-American status. And I have him falling short of that. So he'll have to knock off some good guys, but the track record is there for Tanner Jordan. He has had a fine showing this last half of the season. You can't count out Tanner Jordan. He was a very high seed last year when he was able to make it to the podium. So that's my read on 125. Here's my final podium. First, Luke Lillidahl. Second, Matt Ramos. Third, Richard Figueroa. Fourth, Eddie Ventresca. Fifth, Caleb Smith. Sixth, Jet Strickenberger. Seventh, Vincent Robinson. Eighth, Troy Spratley. Losing in the round of 12, I've got Maximo Renneria. Nicolas Rivera. He should be another sleeper as well. That guy's extremely dangerous. Number 20, Brendan McCrone, and number 8, Sheldon Seymour. those are my picks. What are yours? I want to know how you see 125 going down at the NCAA tournament. Cannot wait for this one.